I have a rope business. So if I was to get stopped by a police officer tomorrow, I would have to justify why I'm carrying this. Yeah? It's not actually deemed as an offensive weapon, but I still have to justify it. The blade is below the level, but I still have to justify why I'm carrying it. Because I have a rope business, I cut rope every day, so I have a justification. But lots of riggers I know carry a pair of shears and carry a knife in their rope bags. And that would be my suggestion to anybody, before you allow anybody to even touch you with a piece of rope, ask to see. And I promise you this, there's no rigger worth their salt that would be offended. And if they are, I wouldn't want to let them go near me.
I'm actually going to say, as a rigger, if someone asks me, I'm happy, because then it shows that they've done their bit of the process and they're asking me the right questions, and therefore I don't think, is this their first ever experience? Are they going to freak out?
Yeah.
No, they've got some of the knowledge that I'm looking for.
To give you an idea, as I said, I've been tying, doing a shibari style tie for the last 7, nearly 8 years. I attend 4 markets a month, do 2 after parties a month. I teach at various different peer rope workshops, and I've tied literally thousands of people. And I promise you, I can count on less than all of my fingers and toes the number of people have asked me if I've got a coupling implement. Because people assume. Because you look at someone and you think, oh, he looks competent. Now, I can't play football to save my life. Yeah? So I could watch some guy, playing on the local park and think, he's quite a good footballer. But that doesn't mean he's good enough to go and play at St James's Park, even though Newcastle will play that shit. Yeah? So, when you're new, everybody looks like an expert. You don't have to have a lot of experience to look like you know what you're doing. So, just ask the question. Honestly, I promise you, it shocks me the number of people who ask, me to tie them, but never ask me, have I got a pair of shears or have I got a coupling implement? And obviously, I would never dream of not having those things, and I could probably count on less than my fingers and toes the number of times where I haven't had 2 of those things. But that's not the point. The point is, I could be full of shit. I might just look good. So, if you're going to do rope bondage, please, 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 I implore you to become and make every effort to become a prick. All right? So, who in here would say they would be the person doing the tying? So at least half, yeah? Who has tied someone already? Actually, most of you. Yeah? Most of you. Yeah? So, There are obviously, who out of those people would do or knows what pick-up play is? Yeah. So pick-up play is quite simply where you don't have a dynamic with someone, yeah, and you go to an event and someone either messages you prior or asks you on the day, would you tie me? Yeah? Because someone else has said to them, oh, go and ask Bear, because, or go and ask Cosmic because he's really experienced, he knows what he's doing. So you automatically assume that because that person has come by a recommendation, that they know what they're doing. So as the top, there'll always be questions that I'll ask. What do you think the first question is? If I'm the top, my first question would be, have you been tied before? Yeah? You'd be amazed how many people actually panic the first time they get tied. Because it can be a hugely overwhelming feeling. And actually, sometimes that's quite a good thing. Sorry, Dave.
That's right.
Yeah? That can be quite a good thing. Because the reason we want to be tied... Yeah.
I just interject on that one. If you haven't been tied before, don't think that if I say I haven't done this before, this person isn't going to want to do it with me, okay? But if you're not honest at that particular stage, they might not want to do it the second time, okay? It's one of those people think, oh my God, is this person going to do it to me? I have no experience. Actually, from the top's perspective, that's where you get the most feedback, the most interesting interaction. So everyone's like desperately looking for that, but please be honest if that is you.
Most tops are a little bit egotistical. Yeah? All right? Some of us more than others. All right? Some of us like to be on stage. Some of us like to show off. Yeah? Why we make so much effort to learn? Because we want to be seen as the person to go to. So we love the, not all, but lots of tops will tell you they love to give people firsts. Yeah? To be the first person that's tied them. Be the first person that's managed to help them get into subspace. Yeah? Put someone in their first hog tie. Do your first seminar style tie-in session. So we like those things. So this is about your safety, if you're a bottom, and your safety as a top. So engage with that person to give you the truth. And as a bottom, give the truth. Because actually, there's no negative. And in reality, if that person decides they don't want to tie you now, that would lead me, personally would probably maybe be a little bit concerned about their skill. I'm not saying that is a good barometer. I'm just saying that's a personal opinion. I'm not saying it is a barometer. Some people don't like tying beginners, but most of the tops that I know are fine with it and actually get a kick out of it. But it massively affects what type of rope we do. If you've been tied 30 times, we can then have a conversation then about the types of ties that you've had before, the types of ties that you'd like to do in the future. What do you get from rope? How do you react to it? We can learn it suddenly opens up a massive door of questions. And that gives us the opportunity to hopefully give you one more step on that journey. It may be the tiniest baby step because we don't know you that well, but it's a step. But actually, if you've never been tied before, it's normally quite a big step. Because if you've never been tied before, like I say, that can be quite overwhelming. You know? So please always be honest. Now, this is not the environment really to start going through with tops lists of questions really, because we don't, if this was a whole day workshop, then we could sit there and we could go through the 50 questions that I might use, which may be slightly different to what Cosmic uses and what somebody else uses, because we all have our own opinions of what sort of questions that you should ask. But the general rule of thumb are: have you been tied before? How do you normally react if you have been tied? Have you got any health conditions? Yeah? Someone suffers from low blood pressure? That can massively affect how they cope with rope. Someone who has high blood pressure? Someone who suffers from angina? There are a lot of them. Have a dialogue and be as honest as you can. Make sure that you are putting your best interests at the forefront, because actually that's what you're there for. What you always have to understand is that this is all about power exchange. You're giving someone the opportunity to potentially take control of your body and your movement or your lack of movement, dependent on the style of rope. Now, you could be doing purely aesthetic rope. So, who here is on FetLife? Everybody? Almost everybody? No, off? Off. Okay. So if you've been on FetLife, or even on Facebook, I know Facebook have certain rules, like certain types of photographs and so on, but most people have seen photographs of some type of rope bondage. Yeah? So we've all seen stuff that looks really, really attractive. Yeah? So whether it's a diamond harness on the front, which is probably one of the easiest ties to learn and literally takes about 10 minutes to teach. And lots of people, that's all they ever want to do. And that's cool. Want to do pretty stuff? That's fantastic. Because actually, that can be really, really rewarding.
There's a lady in Italy, I don't know if she lives anymore, called Dolcissima Bastarda, who made a wedding dress out of rope. So it literally is only limited by your own imagination and your access to rope. So you won't necessarily do that on day one, and I think the whole project was about 6 months worth of intricate tying, but in the end ended up with literally a catwalk of outfits made of rope.
Mad, isn't it? Now, I'll be honest, I'm not that artistic. I'm a retired builder. Give me a water knockdown, sledgehammer in my hand, I'm happy. Yeah? And even if you want me to rebuild it, I'll have it done for you in a day. but each their own. So for me, rope is all about connection, it's all about feeling, it's about, I want you to be almost at the point of orgasm because I put rope on. Yeah? It's not about me, but I've been fortunate enough to say that I've had people saying to me, God, like, having rope with you is like being fucked like by a steam train. Yeah. So, but the reality is, rope is whatever you want it to be. So if you want something that looks attractive, that you can take photographs and put on your profile, that's fantastic. If you just want something to learn how to tie your partner or be tied so you and your partner can have better sex, awesome. And if you want to go on a journey of learning Japanese shibari and all, and all that additional stuff, that's great also. But you've just got to be as safe as possible. So there are a number of different types of material that are available for doing rope bondage with. So the most common one, as I've said earlier, was cotton. Yeah, it's the cheapest. It's readily available. Actually, probably polypropylene is probably cheaper, isn't it? Yeah. But cotton rope, the nice thing about cotton rope is it's soft on the skin. Once it's placed on the skin, people tend to make a decision based on where they want to get to. So, but that sometimes changes. So when I first learned how to use rope, I was doing it just from a bedroom point of view. So I wasn't thinking too much about how quickly I was putting the rope on or anything like that. And those are the things that you do need to consider when you are putting rope on someone. So if that rope is a natural material, so like cotton, jute, or hemp, you can normally apply that rope a little bit quicker than what you can a man-made fibre. And the reason being is the man-made fibre does generate heat. When it's pushed across the skin, it creates a friction and therefore can create a burn on the person's skin. The other thing being as well is obviously in those circumstances, if that person then is then tied and then starts pulling around in it, again, that can have the same effect. And don't get me wrong, you can get rope burns from every rope if you pull around enough, But the more natural fibres tend to take a little bit more work to generate them.
Now, actually, it's a lot slower than people think. So, any rope pulled faster than about 2 inches a second across a person will actually burn their skin. Okay, so that's with the synthetics. You've got to be a little bit faster, but not dramatically faster with natural fibres.
So, one of the most common faults that I see when people are doing rope is who here has ever done any form of yoga or physical exercise, as part of a work environment or just through sports or whatever? What's the one thing that you always do when you do that type of thing? Stretch. So you warm up, didn't you? You warm the muscles. You'd be amazed at how many peer ropes. If you go to a peer rope, honestly, take the opportunity to stand there and look at the people and watch them. I guarantee you, at least 70% of the people don't do a warm up. They don't stretch. They don't. And that includes tops. And then they wonder why tomorrow that tricep or that arm, top of that arm or that leg is sore. You wouldn't go and run a half marathon, would you, without stretching? So please stretch. And I mean, as a top, I do the exercises. I teach cups with my bottoms, to help get the movement going in the shoulders. Do lunges. So all those things affect how someone's experience is. The other thing that a lot of people don't necessarily take into account is how you're going to feel after. You're going to have a big rush, potentially, a lot of endorphins, serotonin released into the brain, and whether that's half an hour's time, because people can. Who has heard of drop? Everybody know what drop is?
We had a drop question in the HMP this afternoon.
Ah, did you?
That's quite fresh in their mind.
Yeah. Good. So, drop can happen literally within minutes of doing a scene. I get dom drop. As a dominant, I get it, and it's normally on the Thursday after having a heavy weekend. So if I played on a Saturday and a Sunday, come Thursday, stay away from me. Because I wake up in the morning and I hate the world. But I know what it is. So I withdraw from people because I don't want to be horrible to people. For years, I never knew what it was. Because I'd never heard of dom drop. I've heard of sub drop. Never knew that doms could get it as well. But it can happen literally, within seconds of the rope coming off. Or it can happen tomorrow or the next day. And this is not about trying to create a negative experience or have you sitting here and thinking, oh God, this rope stuff, God, looks pretty. Because drop comes from every form of play we do. Or can come from every form of play. Because it's to do with that serotonin uptake. So it's just being aware of those things beforehand. Obviously, I'm a man, and I wouldn't remotely profess to know what it's like to go through the cycle that my partners have to deal with. But I know that I know both my partners, once they know that it's actually why something is happening, it's much easier for them to process and go, hang on, I'm feeling X, Y, or Z. Yeah. So whatever you feel, whatever it is, it doesn't make any difference. It's about creating an environment where you cope with what's there. And as a dominant, it's about being there. And the most common error I find from dominance is literally having that feeling afterwards of someone struggling with the emotion side of things and then not feeling like they had someone to vent to. So that's the one thing I would say to every dominant, is to make sure that you preempt that this might happen, and 2, make sure that you are available as much as possible. Right, so I've bored you to death now about the safety aspect. So anybody got any questions?
I've heard of some ropes being waxed or coated.
Yes.
What's that about?
So obviously, rope can. There's lots of waxing done in the, let's just say, in the cotton market. So that's pretty common. It tends to be, if it's, say, waxed in a factory, it tends to be rope which is being used in the meat processing industry. So that if you buy a waxed cotton rope in the which has been used, it's invariably where the type of twine that they will use for tying up meat, that sort of thing, because it stops the juices from the meat penetrating the wax.
So it's not necessarily better to use in rope.
No, well, I mean, I wouldn't use that type of rope anyway for our type of play. Obviously, when it comes to natural fibre, so if I take the rope that I make, so what happens is we take a normal length of jute fibres and we apply a wax coating to those. So we do that for a couple of reasons. Okay, one, to increase the lifespan of the rope. So if you understand, a jute fibre is essentially a dead plant. I think I've said this to a few people today already. Yeah, it's a dead plant. So the Cocorus plant is a type of grass and is potentially, if you're not using it, it's getting drier and drier and drier and drier. So if you coat it with a wax, it will take, the drying out process will be take a lot longer. But also as well is it will feel much softer on the skin. Yeah? There are negatives to doing it. So for instance, things like frictions or for lock-offs, for, when it comes to doing shibari style, you have to learn to cope with those issues if you have a rope which is heavily coated. So it's all about finding the right level really for your style. Any other questions?
I just, on that one, the selection of rope is almost like going out for a curry.
Yeah.
You can go out for a curry and everyone at the table wants something slightly different. Lots of people, for various reasons, are massively wedding to natural fibres because that's a tradition, and if you want to do certain forms of bondage, you have to follow the rituals of that. There's no point in trying to do 6 dance steps and call it a waltz, because a waltz is 3 steps. Simple as that. Now, in my case, the thing that is really important to me is I like my rope to be easy to clean because I do quite filthy things with it. So rope that I can throw in the washing machine, take out, and it's ready to use the next day is my critically important factor. And that's what works for me, whereas other people, they like the sensory, the smell of the rope as well, and you don't get that with a synthetic fibre rope. And it's not that there is, oh my God, this is the perfect ultimate rope. it's the perfect rope for you. And if you're comfortable on that level, you'll do better bondage rope. Because if you're struggling because it doesn't feel right, or it doesn't move in your hands correctly, then you'll always be fighting against that. Does that make sense? And it's a tactile thing. So touch the rope, play with the rope, move it through your hands, get comfortable with it, and buy what feels right for you. And when you get it home, play with it, move it around in your hands, get comfortable using it, because you've got to be comfortable with the tools that you use.
You'd be amazed at how, when you go to a peer rope workshop, you'd be amazed at how many different types of rope that you'll see. So for instance, there's cotton, there's polypropylene, there's what some people would term as silk, which is normally polyester or nylon. Yeah. There's hemp. There's hempex, which is a synthetic hemp. And literally you can go on and on. There's Dyneema, there's carbon fiber, and you could potentially go to a rope workshop and there may be 15 people tied, and every single one of those could be using a different rope. Because actually, there is not a one size fits all. Because we all have our own objectives, we all have our own desires, and what we want to get from the rope. And from the session. Same as you might have a different collar to someone else. You might have a different cane to someone else. Yeah? You might spank differently to someone else. You might spank differently with this partner to what you did to the previous partner. It's always relevant to that situation. So, it isn't, and it never will be, a one true way. And that's one of the common lines that we use, the one true wayists out there, who believe there's only one way to do things. There isn't. There never has been, and there never will be. Because that's not what makes humans successful. We find different ways to do things all the time. If I take my store, I've got 3 or 4 different products pretty much every month. Because we go forward. That's what we do. We learn different ways. There are hundreds of different chest harnesses. There are thousands of ways to create handcuffs, single column ties, all those things. So, who here has done any, so of the tops in the room, is there anybody that hasn't learned how to do a single column tie? Okay. And of the ones that have done that, I'm assuming you know how to do a double column tie? Yeah? Good. What about a parada? No? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll show you a very, very quick single column tie, and we'll show you an even, hopefully, relatively quick parada, which is a very simple tie, which is one of the pretty ones you'll see on FetLife with the diamonds on the front, and it's so easy to do, honestly, and it's one little quick one to literally start you on that journey, to add to your profile, add to your photos, yeah, and potentially, hopefully, get you the bug. Okay, right. Seb, come on up. So this is Seb. She is one of my bunnies. So can I get you to put your arm out, Seb, for me? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a single column. So if I get Seb to stand there, yeah, so everybody can see. Yeah, there are lost count how many single ways to tie a single column tie there are out there, and there are probably over 1,000. So, but the one I teach is the one I can do with my eyes open, and rope is all about muscle memory. It's all about repetition. So anybody in the room didn't have to wear a tie when they went to school? No? Oh, one. Okay. Anybody didn't have to learn how to tie their shoelaces when they were a kid? There's always one.
16 before I learned.
Yeah?
16.
Well, you can do it now.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. There you go. So, and that is a perfect example of muscle memory. Learning to tie your shoelaces, learning to tie a tie, those things are muscle memory. You get to the point where you actually don't even think about it. Yeah? So you can tie a single column tie when you're not even looking at it. Yeah? And I've actually tied it with a quick release. He says. So yeah. So it is just about that muscle memory. It's about doing it repetition over and over and over again. It's not about patterns per se. Yeah? Obviously, we have to learn, just the same as we do when we tie our shoelaces, we have to learn to do that overhand knot first. We have to learn to do the start of the square knot. We have to learn to do those things. So it is about the repetition, yeah, and actually knowing where to put our fingers at the right time, at the right place. Yeah? The most common misconception that I find with bondage is people assuming that it has to be tight. I can get 2, 3, and I've got big hands. Alright? To give you an idea, and this is probably not something that everybody wants to know, but this will be a bit TMI. I've only ever managed to fist 2 women in my whole life. Okay? Got big motherfucking hands. Don't even relish it. Yeah? Don't call me bear for nothing. Alright? And she's not one of them. Right? Right? Okay? So I can get 3 of my big fat fingers in here. Now you could think that that's not bondage. Yeah? But this is why I say it's about learning about anatomy. So, we think of an arm, yeah? And the best analogy I can give you is a crocodile. Have you ever seen them work with crocodile? Yeah? The crocodile has a huge amount of strength closing its mouth. It has no strength almost whatsoever to open its mouth. The human arm, yeah, is powerful that way. One of your weakest muscles is your tricep. You're a gym man? Yeah? How much weaker is your tricep compared to your bicep?
Mine's stronger than the bicep.
Okay.
But
In most people's cases, at least half is strong.
most people's pull is stronger than push.
Yeah. So, I don't actually need to apply an awful lot of pressure here. Now this is not tight. I'm not cutting off circulation, and I could literally hold this with my little finger.
I think I'm enjoying it.
Somebody get a towel. Right? So, misconception. Bondage doesn't have to be tight. It just has to be controlled. Yeah? Now that can be done a number of ways. It can be done by taking control of the person. Whether that's because I've grabbed that or because actually what I've done is distracted the brain. By touching her hair, I've distracted the brain. So it's not thinking as much about where the rope is. My OCD kicked in my house. Yeah? Now, at no stage is that any tighter. So, if Seb says to me, that she is uncomfortable here, yeah? Let's just say I tie her up and she says, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I can go, hang on, let me just adjust this rope. Look. So we have to think about things like nerves and circulation. So the biggest nerve to be concerned about when we get rope anywhere near the thumb is the radial nerve. Yeah? One of the ways, this is not gospel, this is about just experience. If you talk to a neurologist will tell you, yeah, that you can get pain in all of your fingers from the radial nerve. But most commonly, the nerve affects those three. Okay? So if I have said tied, and she says to me, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable in that department, in those fingers, I will think, right, okay, hang on. The chances are that might be a rope pushing on the radial nerve. Now, if she says to me, it's those three, it's a different nerve. Sorry? Could be the ulnar, it could be the median. So normally the ulnar is that. Normally the median is that. So, but it's not an exact science because it just really depends on which of the ropes, which of these wraps is pushing on the nerve. But the point I'm the main issue is I can adjust that. Let's just say Seb says, hang on, I'm uncomfortable. I can now adjust every single one of those ropes. Seb, can you hold your arm for me? No? You can't open her arm because the arm doesn't have the strength to to force that rope off because it's going in the opposite direction that it was designed to do. So that's where learning about human anatomy makes a difference at the top and at the bottom. Okay. So, who here has got someone they can put some rope on? Anybody not got someone that can put some rope on? You? Yeah. Anybody not got someone that can put rope on? Okay. So, can I ask the top to put your hand up so I know how many pieces of rope we need? What are we looking about? 10, 12? Top. Top. Oh, yeah. You're going to be top. You don't want to pick? Yeah. Yeah. Is that all? Right. Right, we've literally got 5 minutes left, that's all, so I'm going to have to take you, show you the thing.
Oh, really? Where's the camera?
Anybody else? In the back. Well, I feel like I'm doing a pantomime here. Throwing sweets. Literally got
On this side.
over the top. Yeah!
More on the back.
Yeah, I've got loads in the back. Right. Okay. Give me this one. Right, step me in. Right, some more. Right. There we go. You don't need a huge amount of rope to learn this single column, honestly. Anybody else need a piece? Okay.
It's right. Just so you know, you're in the camera.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
That's right.
It nearly went over the top there. Okay. Right. Good. Just grab your attention quickly, guys, because we are literally running out of time. Okay, so take a piece of rope. So what we do, we go to the two ends.
Can everyone sit down so people at the back can see, please, if that's all right? Thank you.
He's going to stand up as well.
There we go. All right. I had a new knee 4 months ago. Had my old knee amputated and 2 prosthetics for it. Right. So go to the far end, the 2 loose ends. Every piece of rope has got 2 ends. Yeah. Put them together. Work your way to the center. And we call that bit the bite. B-I-G-H-T. Not. Right? So, we control our rope by the bite. Lay it over the person's arm. Place your hand on that person, like that. You see that hand there? and just slide the rope over your hand. You haven't got your hand on the person. See what my hand is? Yeah. Why do I have my hand on the person? Safety. To create the gap. So when I get over, so I start back at the beginning. So put my hand on the person, lay the rope over my hand. 1, 2. Yeah? I'm going to get you to do it 1 second. Okay? So we know at that stage, and then what we're going to do is go over to the opposite side. And then we're going to use your finger like a crochet hook. We're going to go under that hole where we put our hand, and we're literally going to grab that rope and pull it under. Everybody see that? Yeah?
No, again.
Again. Okay. So I've got my hand there. Rope goes over to that side. Take my index finger, slide it in there, pull the rope underneath. So if you turn your finger, it'll use it like a crochet hook. Okay? So that should leave you with that situation there. So what we're going to do is take what we call the working end, put a little loop in there. So just do a little twist. Look, see? That's it. Slide that over the top of that loop. Yeah. Right. So the most common mistake is to think that you're doing the start of a square knot. Okay? So don't do that. Don't pull both. Only pull this one. The long one. Just hold the short one in place. Don't pull at it, because what you'll do is you'll tighten these ropes. They will get tighter.
The ones around the wrist?
Yes, the ones around the wrist will get tighter if you pull it the way that you normally would do. When you were tying a shoelace, you would pull both, wouldn't you? Yeah? Everybody, hang on. So, if I go back, we've got this great loop, tuck the loop over the top, just hold the loop, this loop, pull that one tight. I'm not putting any pressure on that one at all. I think you did. Go on. Twist in there. Pick that on the top. All you do is holding that one in place. Holding that one. Okay. Pull it tight on there. Yeah.
You got to have some.
Yeah.
Just this is a little bit long. Tell you like a longer. Okay, right. You like that point? Right.
That's all I need.
Guys, I'm sorry, but that we are done for time.
But if you all write on social media that you enjoyed it and you want another piece, I might be able to twist his arm for another couple of months.